We've all been playing this game for a very long time. It's the ultimate goal to be in the LCS.
It's everybody's dream, man. It's what everybody's searching for. It's just like to get paid to do something you love, you know?
For me, Korea, and Locust, we're all really old, so like this is probably our last shot. If we don't make it this one, then it's probably it. So yeah, it's pretty important.
Welcome back to day one of the 2013 Summer Promotion Tournament. It's time for the third series of the day, or the Challenger round and of the day. It's Team Summon versus Fidelis. And while most of the players on these teams are high elo solo queue summoners that are new to the LCS scene, there is one name that fans are familiar with, and that's Locust.
And Locust was Dignitas' support during Season 1 and 2. He was eventually replaced by Patoy. He was on Dignitas for a very long time. And Locust's strengths have always been in overall team strategy, knowing about the game, knowing kind of how to game the picks and ban system, and just getting your team into the right situation. So a win here, and he'll get his chance for revenge against Dignitas in the next match.
And standing in Team Summon way is Fidelis. These guys came up through the Ranked 5 qualifiers, and they are ready to prove why they deserve to be the pros.
And the best-known player on this team is probably Arthalon. He played with Meat Playground during last qualifiers for the spring split of the LCS. So he's actually really tall, by the way. He's like 7 feet tall. He's he's just, you know, there's something with that camera angle that makes him look a little shorter, but the guy's a monster. I mean, fans will also know Prophet on their team as well. He played for Dirtnap Gaming with Prawley actually in the spring qualifiers. So he is another guy on his kind of second road around to trying to make this one. And an interesting dynamic between these two teams, actually, the AD carry for Fidelis, Virus, used to be on Locust team back when they were trying to qualify for the spring split. So there's a bit going on in this match.
It's kind of like once you're a free agent, you can pretty much go anywhere. Now here back into the LCS, they get to face each other. So let's get to know the rest of these teams, starting with the lineups. Beginning the squad, spawning in the blue corner is going to be Team Summon. Grim Samurai in the top, Sicko Scott is the jungler, Captain Korea in mid, Otter on AD, and Locust at support.
And on the red side, it's Fidelis with Nico, 44 in the top lane, Tsunami in the jungle, the really tall Arthalon finally sitting up in mid lane, Virus on AD, and Prophet on support.
All right, before we get into Champion Select, let's take a look at LoLesports.com to see who you think will win this matchup. 62% of you have voted that Team Summon has what it takes to walk away with the win today.
Seems like the deeper we get into this, as the seeds go from like top seed, bottom seed, to closer and closer, because this is technically the third seeded from the, it's the third seeded amateur team from live events, which is Team Summon, versus now the second highest ranked 5 seeded team. So closest voting we've seen, and it's because the game is supposed to be getting closer here out through the rest of the day.
And we've actually seen that, you know, some of those teams that aren't having a LAN experience are the ones coming through. Those normal games.
Yeah, the normal game pros yesterday. Not yesterday.
Yeah.
A couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
Had an amazing best-of-3 series, so we can only hope for even more from these guys, because there will be a bit of a struggle here for Summon, in the sense that they had Slacko as their AD carry for most of this season, but he had an age requirement, so they've had to replace him with Otter very recently, probably the last month and a half, from what Locust was telling me. So they had to make that adjustment, but even then, they do look like a pretty strong team.
Well, coming out of both Challengers, obviously, and the qualifier tournaments, there hasn't been much homework. We've seen pretty much for every team to go at and figure out what they're going to do. They've somewhat played each other, but patches happen, different teams happen. They like to play completely different styles, which would cause somebody to kind of switch up a champion pool even.
And a lot of these teams are really trying to stay underground, if that makes sense. They
true.
realize that the potential gains are so high once they qualify that it's worth it to not really try to popularize themselves before the qualifier actually happens.
Right.
Double Buff, who we'll actually get to see later today, is the best example of that type of team. But for these guys, they've been sticking low as well. I mean, Locust is the type of player who actually doesn't play that much on his own. He much more values playing with the team environment. So they've been doing as many scrims as possible. And all these guys, when they scrim, they make sure to leave the game after it's done or before it's done. Obviously, leave the game after it's done, so it doesn't show up in your match history. So teams can't reactively scout them after the fact.
We'll have to see as they're waiting to get into the game. Back and forth, you can see there Arthalon sitting in the middle, like we said, taller than everybody else. So we're waiting to get this third of the series of the tournament, the Summer Promotion Tournament, underway. No relegated teams yet. This comes in tomorrow. But like we said, it has happened. It happened in Europe. 3 teams have been switched up in the EU LCS, and it can more than well happen like in NNA.
And after the first game you and I saw, where Quantic just shellacked Team Astro Poke, a lot of the LCS teams are going to take notice of that. especially Complexity because they're the ones facing him. But even Dyrus talking in the back after how great Quantic was playing, saying like these guys are really good. Like they could beat anyone in the LCS. And I think even though Quantic is the standouts of the group, it definitely goes deeper than that as far as this qualifying group goes.
Yeah, they are said to be that dark horse that's going to fly through everything and kind of knock everyone out.
I mean, if Quantic's a dark horse, we need to redefine what dark horse actually means. Quantic's like the steady favorite in this tournament.
Oh, right, yes.
Yeah.
Didn't want to say Quantic. But we do have 2 members only of Team Summit in right now. We're still waiting for them to get in the game. Well, like we said, Locust, kind of a community, not community favorite, but the fans will watch. They know that they know the name. They know he's the strategizer for the team. But if he can be locked down right away, if they focus that champion pool, then that's all he has for the team is words.
It's going to be a matter of, do you ever try to factor out support picks? I know in the LCS spring season here in NA, Sona was actually the most picked champion, because a lot of times she's the most popular support, but you don't necessarily target bans at a support player unless you're daydreaming and you're trying to ban out Thresh in some of these situations. But it's probably going to be Locust on Lulu, Sona, or Zyra, maybe Thresh. I don't know if that's his type of champion. He typically likes to just macro the game, not necessarily try to make big plays. And Prophet is actually a very similar guy. Back when he was on Prawley's team for the first qualifier, he was the one actually calling the majority of the shots for them. So both of these supports very knowledgeable about the game, and they might be playing chess.
Eyes definitely as well. Arthalon, as we were saying before, returners, Arthalon, Prophet, both returning. We can remember Arthalon's play on Gragas and both Kha'Zix being one of the first, not the first, but really one of the many to start the aggressive Kha'Zix middle.
And Arthalon is a crazy player.
Yeah.
He was playing that Kha'Zix middle back in the first qualifier.
Yep.
Hasn't stopped since. Continually
Good to know.
threatening people in solo queue. He has a very large champion pool, but also he does bring in those slightly unconventional picks. Like, Gragas is not something that you see from everyone. But when people do play Gragas, like Ascara or Arthalon, they're really successful at it.
So when you're coming up into a game, in your mind or from your professional experience, and you know nothing about the other team, is it straight comfort, or do you try to focus out what you think they might play?
It's a lot of give and take in these situations. So it depends on where they're going to target. So if you want to target out Arthalon in this situation, you would be banning the Kha'Zix and the Gragas and saying, what else do you have? But if you're just saying, we want to make sure we have the initiation or that your support can initiate on us, then you first pick Sona and ban Thresh and be like, all right, now you're going to be able to not initiate on us in this situation. It's if you have trouble scouting, you pretty much pick a player and say, we're going to attack this person, and then hopefully it goes out. And since this is a best of 3, they're going to be able to reactively go at that after the fact, and if something worked really well that they didn't expect, you just ban that out immediately the next game.
Right. We can see Arthalon with the hat. That's what's going to help them. They're saying we don't need the picks to bans. Chat, that's all great, but we have the hats. We're going with the Dragonborn style. They're going to rock it out. He also has his turtle next to him, which is great, so maybe that's the strategy they're wanting for.
Well, if hats are the key to League of Legends as far as Dragonborn is concerned, then they would still be in the LCS.
I know there have been a few interviews which made people professionals. I remember saying, do this in your professional. I'll have to go back and watch, because there was like 1 or 2. They completely made no sense, but they are valid. We're going to be in a champion select quite soon for these guys as they lock it in, actually. We'll see what the picks and bans are for Team Summon versus Fidelis. Remember, the winner of this matchup does go on to face off against Dignitas. So it's going to be very big. A lot of people want to see that Locust matchup for him, but it's these 2 teams right now. The Draven does get banned out versus Virus.
And that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Virus is kind of like Maple Street in the sense that you look at his ranked distribution of games, and he's got 3 times as many Draven games than he does on any other AD carry. So it's very much not giving him that. Obviously, the Gragas is going to be for Arthalon as well. So they did the look up their profile homework and said, we're banning your most played champions. The second most played champion of Virus, by the way, was also Twitch. So they're very much actually attacking him, not anyone else on their team.
It's not very often you see the AD carries really the ones that are focused, because they can always be protected by the team no matter what, even if they're uncomfortable at that time.
It's one of those things, like, you figure out what the guy positions well on, because even though you think all AD carries are about positioning, the difference between playing Ezreal and the difference between playing Misfortune are very vast in the way you actually have to go in team fights. So Draven or Twitch are somewhat similar in the fact that you can go close to people because their damage is just so high, and you don't necessarily have escapes, and you just bull your way into the enemy. So if they take those 2 out, there's not as many bulls left for him to pick as AD carry.
Cannot dive himself into the fight, although he will be looking at red. Karthus is picked first for the side of Team Summit.
Karthus is back. That's probably going to be for Captain Korea. We've been seeing so much of him, even in the LCS playoffs here in NA. Reginald and Mandatory Cloud were battling over him absolutely like crazy, and it's just a solid first pick for them.
Super solid first picks on both sides. The 1-2 coming in, where there was a lot of attention, at least within the LCS games. Still, all those teams that have held their spots, with the 1-2 pick being the one that really turned the tide of the match. And the Kazakhs and Thresh are two champions that could easily do that.
And getting the Thresh this early is quite strong. There was a fact that Locust doesn't necessarily play that much Thresh, so it wasn't a huge threat giving it up. But we've seen Thresh swing games absolutely back and forth. The Kazakhs swing games? What was I actually going to go for there? I'm not sure.
No, it worked. It was
the
punny.
Kazakhs wasn't trying for a while.
I know, it worked though.
All right, well, I'll find it in the VOD. And the Kazakhs pick is something we saw very successful from Quantic as well.
So a lot of in-your-face so far. You're going to have a Karthus going in on this one with a Zed as well. And yeah, they do pick up that Ezreal, that safe pick. So we'll have to see what this leaves Virus with. It looks like he wants to see the rest of the team before they even pick the AD carry, which is quite different.
And it could be a fact of, hey, we don't have much left. So if they go for something like Varus, that's the de facto fallback. A bit of a disappearance of Caitlyn, as far as I can tell, because she was so loved during the last little bit of the LCS playoffs. But, you know, Varus is also extremely solid for Fidelis, especially since they're going with something like Kazakhs. If he's going mid lane, they want more to follow up their initiation with, and that's what Varus can aid them with.
All right, Virus on Varus. That should be a fun one. He locked that
Easy
in.
to say.
And that is going to be good for the initiation lockdown. They have the Cataclysm now, the box, and that Chain of Corruption as they switch. So let's just discuss what they're not using.
Absolutely. So this is another one of those lane bullies that Virus would be able to play. MF can be very strong early for him. As far as the overall composition for them, they have the box, the Jarvan Cataclysm Jail, and then hopefully the bullet time that would come out across for them. So there is synergy working in that composition, and they're still trying to be somewhat true to their favorite champions. Arthalon being on Kazakhs, obviously. Virus, even though his first two champions got banned out, will still be able to play essentially a low positioning bull champion where you can just go in and fight people. So it does make a bit of sense.
Let's see what they decide to lock in for this. They don't have that support out just yet. But they are just hovering around. This has taken them quite a while. One of the slower picks and ban phases we've seen between these two teams. And you can see they're a little unsure, but they're getting, it looks like, the picks they want.
And that's a good, solid last two picks for Team Summon. Locust on Sona, his most played support. That's the type of support you want Locust on. And then Nautilus has been wrecking people, especially at the LCS promo relegation, or their summer promotion tournament, rather, was really just killing it. In the 3.6 patch, which we're on right now, it might have been the 3.5 balance patch. It was a 3.5 balance patch for Nautilus, but he got 4 seconds off the early cooldown of his W shield, and then also a little bit of base armor, which actually helps him in way more ways than you would first realize. One of the big weaknesses of Nautilus was his early clear, and since that shield was on a 26-second cooldown, like Nautilus's weakness was his early clear, and when you patch that up a little bit,
it's great damage. You just can't use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But now you can, and he definitely is making a resurgence as well. And he's one of the junglers I like to watch a lot because you don't see the grab junglers anymore. That initiation is really wave-based, and it's cool to see how they work it into their strategy throughout the entire time. We're looking at a little bit more area of effect coming in, and a safe pick with Rumble that they can throw around to any lane if there needs to be some movement.
And looking at both these teams, there is just damage everywhere. So Fidelis has a whole bunch of threats. I mean, I believe... No, they're messing with me. They're going to be doing some more trades. Finally, Prophet is on. Jason's like, we're going to have a support Jarvan. It's like, no, we have a support Thresh, guys. And Thresh is one of the highest damage supports you get. MF, crazy lane bully. Arthalon going to be trying to clean up everything as the Rumble and Jarvan 4 ults go in. So if that's an all-in team if I've ever seen one, and that's the style of game Fidelis likes to play.
Yeah, well, they have it all over Locust if they want it in the early part of the game. You hook Sona once, you're going to have it there. You all in with Arthalon on Captain Korea. That's easy. We saw it before with the Kazakhs onto a Lux. So the all-in, you're right, it's going to take effect quite soon for them.
And I'm actually thinking that Team Summon probably isn't going to want to lane up against Virus and Prophet with the Sona. They're probably going to be doing swaps, as we've seen in almost every game.
Get the poke lane in, put it against the 1v.
And also that is going to give Sicko Scott, hopefully Sicko Scott, more time to roam around mid on Nautilus. I feel like the Nautilus-Karthus combos will be very, very potent if they're able to start pulling those off.
Definitely a lot more crowd control brought into the teams than we saw into our first 2 games that were played in that matchup. But yeah, that Karthus wall into the Nautilus grab, like you said, could be a good lane focus for them. Looking on the other side for those ganks, Jarvan really could choose any lane to go to, but they're going to have to make those moves fast, as Fidelis likes to. We'll see what they have here as we are into the 3rd match here in the Summer Promotion Tournament, the 3rd best-of-3 series between Team Summon and Fidelis. Winner goes on to face Dignitas, but we have 3 matches possibly to go here. If it cannot be a clean 2 sweep, Rivington the 3rd and Jap bringing it to you, and we are live onto the Rift.
So with these lineups, we haven't seen any level 1 matchups at all so far in this tournament, and
there's been a lot of jungle movement, but yeah, they've never found each other.
But they don't find each other, and I don't know if this is going to be one of the first games to see it. There's not huge amounts of early game pick potential. If Sicko Scott started with his hook on Nautilus, you would only ever want to do that once you have full vision of someone and try to catch them. We don't have any kind of TFs or Alistars or Cho'Gaths to do anything crazy, so it would really be about hoping someone walks into your group up of 5 if you want to pull off anything.
We do have 1 ward being placed on the bottom side for an entry there, and they're going to actually hover towards their red, which is quite odd as they make their way. They see Sicko Scott, so they're going to have full vision there. They know all 5 are here. This is big news for actually Team Summon.
And Fidelis is not thinking about backing off. Now they're going to back off. Okay.
They get that flag toss in, and they say, yeah, this is split. We cannot get past this choke point. Team Summon goes back to the original strat, and so does Fidelis.
So they got the ward inside of Team Summon's jungle, and they're still thinking about going in, but there'd be no way they could go in without having total vision given up. Good thing here, there's actually a pink ward burned by Team Summon to get control of their blue buff back again. And I think that's probably going to end up being a win for Team Summon, however small.
We'll have to see if that is used. They're not going to have that pink ward for the top lane in that early part, and we'll see if Sicko Scott can make use of that Nautilus, or if he heads down to the bottom side right after his blue buff. You see him getting help from Grim Samurai. Same thing on the other side. It's pretty much orthodox start for both teams here.
Well, hey, man, Sicko Scott's got a 25 gold head start because he killed that ward. So 1 minion kill up already, early lead on Tsunami, and he's going to be able to crush that one down. But I want to see how much Sicko Scott's early ganks can match Jarvan the 4th's ganks, because both these guys now, especially with the recent changes to Nautilus, have an absurd amount of early presence. And since Karthus is going to want to be in a farm lane, the other ones are 2v1s, I'd think that we're either going to see ganks with the 1v2 lanes or just here in the mid.
So Captain Korea hitting 2 quite quick over here on Arthalon. Arthalon's still level 1 and kind of trying to get there. Now level 2, doesn't really have that option to go for the all-in as much. Definitely isn't going to clear the HP bar, but we do see Thresh coming back up top. Could be swinging at Grim Samurai here for a quick second. I think they're going to make it out safe in the lanes. They start the farming.
And there's been a definite decrease in the amount of Elixirs of Fortitudes bought at the start of games. 350 gold now for that item instead of 250, and Arthalon, the only one on this map to be going for it in the mid lane, still hasn't consumed it. That's the Kha'Zix all-in potential if he tries to go early. But Captain Korea doing a pretty good job thus far, zoning him back and actually keeping him pretty darn low here just with the Skittles.
So it's no real guess, right? You see somebody with a red pot on Kha'Zix, you know there's going to be an all-in too. How has that not just been stopped since people would realize that?
It's with the Nautilus and with the only having the wards on one side, he's not going all in because of the fear that Nautilus is just going to go and get him. So it's like you're gifting off your intentions by going the red elixir. So you're saying, I'm going to beat you if I close on you. And then it's all about Captain Korea either punishing it when it happens or just making him think he's not allowed to do it.
Right, going in from the top lane, the anchor toss does hit onto Prophet. They may get the kill down, the ignite is there, the first blood going to Sicko Scott. Big moves here by Nautilus from the jungle. Virus is going to answer back 1 for 1, but if that passive comes back up, he may have it. No, the double up, too much burst damage for him. He's got to back off.
So there was the gank in the 2v1 lanes. Early on in the season, we would see like 3v1 dives. But so far today in the LCS qualifiers, we've been seeing the junglers helping the one person in the lane, and again we saw it there. Luckily, Sicko Scott didn't transfer the double buffs to anyone in the lane, but because it was a 1-for-1 with the kill going to Virus, that wasn't necessarily a successful gank.
We'll see where it puts them. Not too much gold difference here, if anything, at 5 minutes into the game. Just about. Arthalon still in mid, trying to hold back Korea. He's just using that Q to farm. He knows he can't get in range. He does a bit. He does not pop the red, maybe for the second time around, but Korea will not make that close mistake again.
And that just gives you an example of how much damage Arthalon can burst down. That was without him using his Q on Captain Korea, which is actually one of the hardest hitting level 1 spells in the game if he gets the isolation. And the only reason he jumped on him there is because he knew that Nautilus was top. Every other time in this lane, he's been afraid of the counter gank. So despite starting with the red elixir, Arthalon has been playing quite safe.
Tsunami getting the invade boots on, puts down a ward. They want to know where Nautilus is. You just said it helps Arthalon. It's going to help them even more now they know.
And here could be the next gank of the jungler onto the 2v1 lane as Jarvan just sneaks in behind. Tit for tat, these guys trying to go in. There's no red buff on Tsunami, though.
Team Summon has just tunneled themselves into this one. They're going to wait for Otter. They're going to try to force the Arcane Shift, but he does throw and go for the flag toss. Very interesting there. Nico still going to the fight with the Flame Spitter. They have some damage. May get the Q coming out from Tsunami before they get out, but it looks like they're going to have to back from this one.
Coming in for that gank without red buff and then using your flag toss before Otter shifts away really takes away the kill potential for that gank and is mainly just then a tool for shoving out the lane and hoping Tsunami gets a little bit of experience, which if that's what they're going for is okay.
All right, like you said, putting the pressure with that one champion or person in the bottom lane. It's going to be help for Nico right now. And we look at those single laners, it's 22 to 15, so not too much discrepancy in the CS right now.
It looks like these lanes are just starting to balance out a little bit. And this is another one of these things that's been trending up. The junglers kind of do two-man lanes with their side laner just to make sure they can survive a little bit. Nico's not going to get denied any minions at the turret as long as he's got Jarvan there because they do have a level advantage on Otter and Locust when they're in that situation.
Quite aggressive in the top lane. Virus and Prophet looking for the grab onto Grim Samurai, but they don't find it. He's not getting any help from Nautilus right now. Sicko Scott's going to be in middle. Flash is down. They tried summon on Arthalon. Looks like he will finally get a back in. We'll see what items he goes for, but he still holds on to the red pot, waiting for that game.
He never did his all-in,
right?
So he didn't need to use his red elixir. He had the threat of the red pot, which as a melee, he was able to equal Karthus' farm, who can farm from like 900 to 1,000 units away with his Q, so that was quite successful.
Good bit of damage there. The poke goes on. Sicko Scott again, right place at the right time, helping out Grim Samurai in the top lane, and he'll go ahead and soak up this experience as it gets to the turret.
And this means that Sicko Scott's actually going to hit level 6 really quickly on Nautilus because of the 1-for-1 trade where he got away with the start, and again returning to the top lane here. Sicko Scott's going to be getting real powerful on Nautilus, and he has to make sure to transition that into some success since Grim Samurai is the one who's quite far behind.
The Prophet just taking some free damage there. They go to grab, but he's got the shield on. You can just see how much of a bully he's being to that 2v1 lane. Karthus 6 now up, so they got to be aware of that window on Fidela's side.
And you can see Tsunami walk through that ward and wants to help Arthalon snowball a little bit. He really wants to get Kha'Zix going, but it's just not been enabled yet.
We'll see what they do. Tsunami looks like he's going to get himself trickily over again into the tri-brush. They do not have wards towards this bottom lane, but that ward up towards mid did give them an idea that he's in the bottom side of the jungle.
They knew he exactly went to the bottom side of the jungle, and even though he was sneakily going over the wall, they're kind of like, yeah, I think we should be a little careful here, guys. That could just be Locust's game sense ticking them off and telling Otter to be a little bit passive.
Yeah, it looks like after that, he just is going to enter lane and help once again. Push that lane with Nico. Top lane, Grim Samurai still by himself, but he has 6 to get himself out. Looks like he's going to try to bait in something for Sicko Scott here.
And with this game just being super, super even, both junglers just mimicking each other, we'll see if Sicko Scott, since he's 6, can pull something off. He'd want to be able to get onto Virus so they don't get crushed by the bullet time, but the lantern lights up the brush and scares Sicko Scott out of it.
It might have been the ward from Grim Samurai placed earlier, that one in the forward brush. They said, you haven't done that yet. This is different. So we kind of read that one out. They still put the pressure on the lane, though. Everybody's making good moves. As you see, it's 1-to-1. The gold completely even here at 8 minutes and 20 seconds into the game.
And really close to even farm in every lane except the 1v1, like the side laners, are the only ones, and even then it's only 10 minion kills off. 71 to 67 if you look at Captain Korea and Arthalon. The junglers have both, well, one jungler was part of a successful gank, the other one's tried a lot, and they're mimicking about the same pace of farm.
We'll see where those tiers are getting as well. Looks like we got the 72 stat coming in for Arthalon, and 192 is Captain Korea. Definitely going to finish the Seraph's Embrace charge before Arthalon gets his stacks up. But that's just how your Karthus works. We'd like to get Dragon here at 9 minutes, chat. It's going to be some good pressure. As they go in, so they see that gank going down. They don't have too much vision on it, so this is just going off that Karthus. It looks like they do get the first, or the next kill rather, onto Prophet. That's going to be 2 for 1, but the Dragon.
That was a little bit odd. They realized that there was the mismatch in the top lane, so they just went and knew they could take the Dragon. But at the same time, Fidelis fell to a really just brute force gank from Team Summon. Fidelis had to know it was coming. It was just the
Yeah.
fact that the execution from the Nautilus ultimate into the hook was too much, and Prophet ended up going down.
So just about earlier than 9.5 minutes, we see that Elder Lizard Spirit finished up onto Ezreal, or Otter. He's going to be trying to push that lane, getting the aggression down, and really Nico can't take that damage, so he is staying quite far back, and he's going to start getting zoned. That CS discrepancy getting a little bit more for that side lane.
And Rumble has been struggling a fair bit. Even though Rumble is generally a good 1v2er because he can use his Electro Harpoons early on in the lane to make sure those come down, the poke from Ezreal Sona has just been too much, and he's actually now having to use his ultimate just to clear the wave, and it still doesn't save his turret.
Otter's throwing out the ultimate even. They know they're going to have to, or they know he's going to back on this one, so they kind of just stay. They're going to push this up clearly past the river. Captain Korea just trying to defile out the last minions for himself. Everybody's kind of back and taking the Wraith camps as much as possible, keeping themselves moving here. And there's been quite a bit of action from both of these teams.
There's been a lot of movement, but not necessarily a lot of kills.
Right.
Unlike the last game where it was just tons of everything, where everyone was just dying all the time, these teams are definitely opening up a little more conservatively. It could just be from the team compositions. It could be because they were straight up in 1v2 lanes the whole time and both mimic strategies, so there wasn't really much clashing to happen early on. But with all that, it's just that 700 gold lead.
Team Summon trying to make something happen in the bottom lane. This is going to be quite scary for them. If they get vision of all three of them down in the bottom, they may try to activate on something here or push in the top lane. We'll have to see. They do have that vision, but it's going to be Tsunami down there as well, so I think it's just going to be turret damage.
And Captain Korea Arthalon know they're 1v1ing. There it goes.
The exhaust is quite early there if Arthalon wants to jump back in. Does not decide to do it right away. I think he knows he has the upper hand in this fight, though.
So it was an Arthalon ultimate burn for Captain Korea exhaust, but here comes giant thing.
Arthalon's like, I'm going to go this way. Oh, Sickle Scott says, I did see you. He is moving. The boots of mobility already on. The first anchor toss hits. The passive locks him up. He does get the jump away, and it does not look like Grim Samurai has the movement to get to him.
Arthalon moved far enough up towards Virus and Prophet that it scared Sicko Scott of going over, because I feel like he could have continued to chase. It was just a 1v1. He would have popped his ultimate and went for it, but he knew Arthalon had backup, so he decided not to go in.
We'll see what everybody is having at right now. 102 to 108 CS, and really mid, along with that top lane, or the side lanes we should say, as they are top and bottom, are the discrepancy in CS. It's going to start making that gold lead that's about 1,000 in the favor of Team Summon right now. Dragon is going to be quite helpful for one of these teams if they can get to that.
It's a crazy thing because they've traded, essentially, you know, the Dragon went down,
Right.
the farm is pretty even. The only real difference I'd have to say is, you know, that like 2 kills to 1. These teams are still evenly matched. No one is actually pulling really that far ahead at this point, except maybe Grim Samurai when compared to Nico, but Rumble participates better than any other side laner in the game with low amounts of farm. So this game is still easily up in the air for both of these teams.
And it's going to be tough for somebody to break through the ice, too, because neither of them are making mistakes. They're playing very well. They're playing smart. They're not tunneling on their engagements. We saw that Team Summon was going deep into the bottom, and then they warded it and backed out because they didn't feel safe. So they're not pushing themselves into a bad spot.
And you can very easily put yourself in a bad spot with any of these champions. Kaz can just fly in.
Yep.
Sicko Scott's got his ultimate and his hook that just pulls himself to a bud that he wants to kill in certain situations. But he just hasn't used it once. That Nautilus Assault's only been used the one time for a kill, and everyone else has just kind of been keeping their distance.
Arthalon staying calm, cool, and collected inside his minions, not taking that much damage from the lay waste Skittles. So he's going to be able to get out of that. Going ahead again, farming his Wraiths up. 2 minutes for that Dragon to come back up as Otter in the top lane. Just kind of fending by himself as he gets a little bit of ward help coming in from Locust here. So we'll have to see the calls starting to come out soon as Dragon comes up. We'll have to see if Locust can make that call for the team to grab it.
And Locust is going to have to make the right call here in the top lane as well, because Otter's going for that blue Ezreal, and right now he's on a tier, but there's a fight bot.
Whoa, can't stand in that Grim Samurai forced to flash. He definitely had the 1v1 without that equalizer, but that's why it's called equalizer.
And there is just too much action going on across both sides, because there's, while Nico's pushing down bottom and putting back Grim Samurai, there's 6 people congregated in the top lane, knowing that Nautilus would have been there for a game.
So with Grim Samurai in the hot seat in the bottom lane, both of them forced to back. A lot of pressure from Team Summon on this top turret here at 14 minutes. Does not look like they're getting any contest here from Prophet and team. They just missed Locust by the side. Tsunami coming off as well, so they're going to push 3 back onto 3. We'll see who's going to win this one.
And if there was a fight, Otter doesn't get any in-fight benefits from that Tear of the Goddess. He literally just gets more spam and poke until he turns it into a Manamune. So if there is a Thresh hook that lands, or Tsunami does land a nice combo, they could potentially go in on this. The only thing they have to keep in mind is the Requiem would come in to aid Team Summon as well.
This is a great counter. I was going to say, you know, Jarvan can go in and Cataclysm, and then MF could ult, but then she's going to get depth charge. So there really is no engagement for these guys, because there's also the Crescendo on the other side, too. It's like, we're going to hit your turret until it goes down. You're going to have to deal with it pretty much.
This is exactly what Team Summon wants, because they know Ezreal is weaker in the straight-up fight, so they want to continue to poke them. And there we go. They're trying to go in.
They tried. They didn't have to do really much but walk away to get out of that bullet time. So they wasted a bit, and they know they can repressure if they want to. They're staying back quite far this time, though.
And all the while, it's just a 2v2 on the other side of the map. We got Grim Samurai now matching up with Nico, who Nico is actually winning the trades fairly easily since there's no magic resist anywhere on Grim Samurai, but there is a Seeker's Arm Guard on Nico, so it's really an itemization win in the last time they fought each other. And then Arthalon and Captain Korea just continue to try to farm to their heart's content.
Finally picking up that turret. The top lane spreads the gold a little bit more, 1.5 thousand in favor of Team Summon at this point. Coming up on 16 minutes, that dragon is up, so the dragon for the turret, but they're going to keep pressuring, and they may cause Fidelis to have to back off of this.
And this is really interesting here as Locust actually gets hit.
Oh, he got boxed up. He is not getting out of that one. It's going to be the Requiem coming down as well. Looks like they can finalize all the kills. Otter, one more shot and stay alive, and it looks like he will be cleaned up. Virus goes down by the hands of Sicko. Scott 4-2. Arthalon in a fight with Grim Samurai now as he tries to get over the wall. Samurai follows with the shadow. Can he get the last attack down? No, it's not going to be enough.
So start of that, great dive by Team Summon, I have to say. Even though they lost Locust, it really paid off for them. They got kills in some pretty good places. Seiko Scott got the 2 kills and 2 assists. Otter didn't die despite taking many turret shots in that dive. And the overall pressure of the map does seem to be in Team Summon's favor here, as they're 2 turrets on 0 and still pushing a 3rd.
They still have the forward aggressive wards going into the jungle of Fidelis on the blue buff. That was previously a vision ward, so they've refreshed that one as well. They're keeping not a snowball, but their advantages pressed, and they are definitely using them.
They do seem very coordinated, and I gotta see Sicko Scott's, I'm gonna get that name eventually. The shield on Nautilus is something people underestimate a lot of the time. That thing does 130 damage a second, essentially when you're just, or over 2 seconds over auto attacks. So it doesn't do damage when you break the shield, so if people aren't focusing Nautilus in teamfights, he is doing more damage than you'd almost ever imagine out of a tank. But if you get damage on him and you break the shield, he becomes a little puppy dog and doesn't do any damage in these fights. So we'll have to watch if Fidelis recognizes that and is able to pop Nautilus' shields in teamfights.
Looks like they may go for the dragon. They get a little bit of help from the True Shot Barrage. Nice attempt there, valiant attempt. If anything, by Otter, that cooldown's going to come up quite quick. So if the fight goes on, they'll be quite ready for it. Captain Korea throws down the wall for really no engagements, just a little bit of harassment here as they poke back and forth. They know the dragon has been grabbed, so it's kind of just a waiting game. Let's reset, see for the next fight.
And it could just be Siege City here, because Otter's got a red buff and a Lizard Elder, so he's got 2 Lizard Elder buffs on him right now. Gonna try to poke down as much as possible for about 2 seconds, and then apparently they're just gonna move around to the other lanes and shove.
It is kind of weird. Team Summon's already passed the river and bottom. They're kind of at the river at top. They don't need to pressure that. Mid would have been a huge opening on the map for them since they already have wards, you know, placed deep.
Otter saw the huge wave and got a little greedy, but Arthalon's behind him. He wants to kill.
Oh, he uses the Arcane Shift right there. He does have the flash up. The barrier's not there. Arthalon will be able to void spike that. Gonna get the kill coming in. It looks like they may get the assist as well. The shield gives the assist to Prophet.
That is just adding insult to injury for Otter, because he didn't get the wave and he died, and the wave is going to die off. So really bad situation for Otter. They're roaming down too early. If he would have waited about 15 more seconds, he could have farmed the wave here at the turret where Arthalon is currently hitting it, and Arthalon couldn't have killed him. But because he was so impatient and went to get the wave through the river without wards, Arthalon tracked him just perfectly, hunted him down, got the kill and the turret.
And the red. Beautiful. Unfortunate. Going for mid, it looks like Virus going to put some damage down onto that. The Flay as well into the Crescendo. Make him dance in front of the turret. Depth charge popping him up. Sicko Scott for the chase. Turns off to File as it's wasting a bit too much mana. They look to follow here. True Shot Barrage glazing down mid lane. It looks like they are going to find the kill onto Prophet. Equalizer goes down as they try to get help here from Nico, but it's not going to be enough. Captain Korea blocks him off from getting in. He could walk through that wall, but he didn't want to.
Definitely too little too late from that Equalizer. Now Team Summon pushing down on the turret. Gonna try to get this one. Fidelis is not done.
This is crazy. They don't have that Equalizer. They just flashed out of it. The turret damage was going to be the most that they took, but they were able to pressure them off of that. Now Summoner Spell's down. quite a bit. Otter back to the bottom lane in a safer spot. We're going to slow things down here at 20 minutes. We're looking at the Seeker's arm guard being built up by Nico. And like you said, still no magic resistance coming out for Grim Samurai.
And you're not generally going to build magic resistance on Zed. He's just going to try to avoid Nico and
as
team
much
fights,
as possible.
dive past, and then kill the Misfortune, who doesn't necessarily have a huge amount of mobility.
Right. So turning around, Arthalon getting some good AoE damage down with those Void Spikes. Charged up that Manamune already to 564. Did say that Karthus was going to be charged up. He actually has 750 on it right now. He just has to get the purchase.
And there it is. Boop. Just instant transformation right there for the Saracen Brace. Captain Korea will get some added versatility in the team fights now that he's completed that item just right. Get the active off for a huge amount of shield. And Fidelis really defending this turret. I mean, in the previous push, Tsunami actually popped his Cataclysm just for the sole purpose of really keeping that turret up, and they do not want to lose the control of this one. They've already lost their other outer 2 turrets, and you lose a lot of power once you lose the 3 outer turrets. That's why you see teams push so hard to try to get those first 3.
Have to take notice, Team Summon's wards have definitely lowered. They don't have as many forward wards going in, those deep wards compared to this turret right now. If they take that down, they'll have a little bit more room to play with. There's a bullet time across the whole team. Arthalon jumps in, he gets the first kill, goes in Viz, they can't find him, looks for the second one. Can he get another reset looking in? The double kill for him, the Requiem might take out 2. Tsunami lives with a sliver of health. Arthalon went a little too deep, but he should be able to escape this if he's a magician.
He's going to have to be a real tricky bug. They stop chasing.
Nope.
They're actually probably a little afraid of him jumping out and instantly killing someone because Kazakh can spike his damage so quickly on people. But take note of this here. 2 kills on Fidelis. 3 kills happen to 3 deaths happen to Team Summon. And he's actually tracking them. He wants to fight them.
Oh my gosh, he wants to go in. He pulls that off. The depth charge goes too far. Oh, true shot barrage. He didn't expect that to hit him right in the kisser. Coming up for Virus. He did not choose to go the same way. The red buff is on. Does he have enough kite? Double up and an extra shot. Does he have it? Strut's going to come up in just a few seconds. 1 hit for the next. Tit for tat, but it's in favor of Virus.
Double buffs going back and forth and back again. So Virus now has them here on Misfortune. The game just exploded in a bunch of action. They started slow, but now these teams are showing they like to brawl. Before that fight happened, Riv, there were 2 wards on the map. One was at Baron, there was a pink ward in mid lane. That was it. But they didn't care because everyone was in mid lane and they knew what was about to go down. They fought and they just traded a bunch of kills with each other.
Something happened, somebody rang the bell, and it was an all-out fight. Right now at 22 minutes, that leaves us at 9-7 and exactly 1,000 gold lead for Team Summon. They have 3-2 turrets, but they still have not, oh, they did find a way to get the mid turret down. I'm a liar.
That's a whole bunch of damage.
Oh my gosh, Nico going down on this one. He actually stood in it most of the time. So like we were saying, the magic resist, not really necessary.
It nearly equalized the fight.
It did.
But not quite, because
Not
he did
enough.
have a death mark on him. And the big thing there was the Blade of the Ruined King active came out during the death mark, so the Blade of the Ruined King damage got amped along with the rest of Grim Samurai's damage, and Nico just didn't have enough armor really to withstand that. Once he gets his Ani's Hourglass, which he potentially would against a Zed, he'll be able to not get soloed. But for now, Zed's going to solo whoever he wants.
Arthalon going in as well. So both teams kind of have the I can solo whoever I want guy now. Arthalon on one side with Kazakhs, Grim Samurai with Zed on the opposing team for Team Summon. We'll have to see if those two ever go face to face here. For us, Captain Korea taking some damage, but Grim Samurai there. That will turn the tide of the fight and cause FD to back up.
And we may see a fight breaking out pretty quicker. You can tell that there's the Nautilus ult up. I think Team Summon would want to wait for the death mark from Zed, but the Dragon is up and the timer is ticking. So Equalizer has a few seconds left, as well as the death mark. So I think they're going to poke at each other for a little bit, and then we might see another brawl, because Fidelis is positioned to get the Dragon, and they have the Oracles to try to clear vision.
They would love to have that death mark. Requiem is up here. If all things go too chaotic, they can use that. Really get the initiation of the fight ender in. The wards are going out. The fight of wards before the fight of HP. The toss goes in onto Nico. Equalizer across the whole team. The HP gets bursted, but they make it out, and they just turn onto Virus. The back line getting hit. Prophet and Nico very low. Captain Korea is chasing them into the den. That is not the place you run in a fight. Triple kill coming in for Captain Korea. Oh, looking for the Quadra onto Arthalon. Does not get it as it goes to Sitko Scott. Prophet just makes it out alive. No, he doesn't. He gets the Quadra from the Requiem. He can't get to the fountain in time. 15 to a 24-minute ace and a push down mid for Team Summon.
One Nautilus anchor away from the Penta, but that was a great fight for Team Summon. They got the kill on the Virus at the start because they just locked him down and bursted him through. The crescendo was really key for Locust on that fight, and Fidelis just could not pull off their combos properly. There was too much damage from Team Summon that came through, and with the ace, with the Quadra, and with the Baron, that Captain Korea Karthus is going to be devastating for the rest of this match.
As Seraph's Embrace finished up, helped so much with the shield in that fight. He came out and just walked into that Dragon Dens with his Defile up. It looked like Team Summon had their way out, or rather Fidelis had their way out, but Team Summon had their number. So we'll see here at 25 minutes, Nico looking to push the bottom lane out. They have to relieve some of this pressure. Summon back to their old ways of forward wards into the juggle of Fidelis, and they're still working on those defensive wards.
And now it's going to be a matter of whether Summon can move through those wards and make it into turrets, because they showed they could win that last fight. Blue Ezreal's getting more and more blue items. The Iceborne Gauntlets makes it more difficult for Fidelis to counter-engage onto them. It increases the chasing potential of Team Summon as well. And that Ezreal build in particular, I really feel like it's swingy, so swingy.
So swingy.
When you're ahead, it's amazing because you control exactly where the fights happen and you just exhaust the other team down and poke them and just chase them to death. But if you fall behind with that build, you lose your duels with other AD carries. And it doesn't matter really if you can chase them after you, because you don't want to chase after them.
Right.
So since Team Summon is ahead, it's great that he has this build, and they got to make sure they end it before Fidelis catches up.
So 7, 1, and 5. Captain Korea is trying to keep that lead with the team as well. Good movement from Sicko Scott all game, but 4, 0, and 8 on Nautilus has facilitated the way that Team Summon has pushed these lanes down. They have found all 3 outer turrets. They still stand with mid and top turret hardy. Looks like as they push down mid, they're going to have a 6,000 gold lead and a few more core items as they engage.
And it depends on how aggressive Fidelis feels right now, because they know Zed isn't in the area and that the Ezreal ult was burned bottom, so there's down a few threats. If Fidelis could get a Thresh hook, they'd think about going, even though there's a team with Baron buff, but they would have to proceed with a lot of caution, as Team Summon showed just how strong they were in fights with that previous ace.
Now you say a lot of caution, but how do you consider when you have a Jarvan and a Kha'Zix that want to jump in against a Karthus?
You just gotta be scared. I mean, you gotta make sure you get the hook onto the right person. Like, if they could get Captain Korea hook, kill him right away, and then get out, they could do it. But if they have an extended fight in Karthus, no matter what, they're gonna lose. It's really just a matter of making sure they get the threats out of the way first and escape the threats.
Definitely between a rock and a hard place right now for Fidelis. They need to find an entry into this fight. Right now, it's from under their turret. They are just looking for solace here, but if they cannot, they're going to start losing that top lane. Arthalon has already moved up towards the top, but they're not putting any more pressure there. The wall goes down. It looks like Team Summon will pressure down this turret enough. They're just going to have that free split push rain now.
Just gave it up, really. They didn't want to get engaged on under that turret. That shows you how much they're respecting Team Summon's dive potential right here, and that pretty much means that this next top turret is going to go down as well, because this turret's much harder to defend than the previous mid one that Fidelis just gave up.
They do have that bottom wave pushing down past the river, so they don't have to worry about mid now. They have the 2 closest lanes for Fidelis to guard. This is going to be in their favor, but not a good thing.
And there is a minute left on Team Summon's Baron buff, so if they wanted to make a move for an inhibitor, it would probably have to be in the next 2 waves. They're all pretty healthy. They haven't landed much poke onto Fidelis, and there's not anyone with a huge amount of armor. You can see Sicko Scott's got about 140, so if Nautilus can get turret aggro, they might want to go in for something a bit aggressive, but this would be one of the ways you give back a lead. I feel like Team Summon has an edge here, and if they could get an ace here, it would be a killer instinct, but this is also a great way to kind of get rid of your lead.
There it is onto Otto. The Arcane Shift is out. He still has, no, his flash is down. You can just see we're waiting for that cooldown there. With Arcane Shift being down, they're not going to pressure anymore.
No, and they know how quickly Otter can get that Arcane Shift back off of cooldown. He's got 20% cooldown reduction just from his 2 items, so he's getting shifting huge amounts of times, and since the Q Ezreal reduces the cooldowns of his other spells every time he lands a Mystic Shot, it is very difficult to close onto that type of Ezreal.
So moving away from that engagement, looks like they are going to start spreading out the damage. Just kind of feels like they're pushing an already pushed lane and losing time. So they're going to start moving around, spread out their damage and spread out the power, and see what they can find in Fidelis here.
And that's a super successful Baron buff for Team Summon. After the ace, they got not only the global gold from the Baron, they got 2 turrets and a whole bunch of free farm and other jungle from Fidelis. This game was really close before that ace, and Really, Team Summon did a great job to pull something back. Sicko Scott gets hooked.
He got hooked quite hard. This is going to be a turret after that as well, and you can still see the kill potential coming in from Fidelis. Team Summon getting a little too complacent there.
Sicko Scott tried to take the shortcut back to the turret, and he really paid for it. There's no Baron buff on Team Summon, but they might want to fight.
All the flash crescendo coming in from Locust. There goes the attack damage. Zed is in the fight. Can he get more damage down? It is going to be Captain Korea going hard as well as he flashed in. The Defile is on. The double kill coming in for Grim Samurai. A kill coming in as well for Otter. The double for him. The only one to make it out is Arthlon.
4-4-0 in a 4v5 for Team Summon because they lost Sicko Scott before that even happened. And here's the chase from Otter. He gets the slow onto Arthalon, and that was a great fight. The flash initiation from Locust calling, hey everybody, we're going in. I don't care if we're undermanned. We have a lead right now, and it really worked out for them.
And if they don't need this turret, which they want, Dragon is up. They can go ahead and grab that. The global pressure is still in their favor, and you can just look at the top side of the jungle. 5 wards rather placed there. They don't even have any in the bottom side. They are completely opening up whatever they want to focus and then done with it.
That has become their jungle. They now own it. They put enough flags down that anyone walking there would be like, man, this is a really well-populated jungle of wards if someone walked through there with an Oracles. Fidelis is not safe there. They're not safe in many parts of the map, as we saw with that next near ace, even though they're only facing a 4v5. There's a free dragon. Well, not a free dragon, a dragon that Team Summon would be able to take if they want it because they have so much map pressure. And then the Baron is probably going to be the next big point of contention as Team Summon will look to solidify their advantage in this game.
Well, Fidelis looking to solidify an advantage here as they start placing wards out. They're finally getting themselves around to different spots here and really getting those choke spots locked up for them. They have the AoE to really fight a formidable battle in those choke spots. The MF coming out, the Jarvan ulti as well, Carthalon with his AoE, so that you can see they're kind of looking to prep that fight as well.
The only thing that they kind of get screwed by if they fight in really tight corridors is the Captain Korea Karthus. That's a
if he can make it in, his flash is down, so he may not be able to get to the back line as easy, but I think he'll do it anyways.
It's exactly that. I mean, they want to fight in the tight corridors, but at the same time, kind of screws them over if they do.
Damned if you don't.
Because if they were ahead, the tight corridors would be to their advantage. But because they have the 7 kills, 9 assists on a Captain Korea with 258 minion kills at 31.5 minutes, it's a bit much.
Just a bit. The bulwark finish for both sides. The Bloodthirsters coming in for both Arthalon. Oh, going with the grab, gets the terrain, but it looks like they're going to get the kill. Tsunami goes in anyways, knowing he's going down. He needs to do that damage for his team. They get a good bullet time, but the backside of it doesn't hit the rest of the team. Grim Samurai looks to go down here. They focus down on Arthalon. He's forced to flash away from a near kill. Captain Korea still in the fight with his team. They cannot get the damage to him. Locust staying with the heals on the backside, and Otter has been 100% health pretty much the entire time. They couldn't get focus on Team Summon.
And that was really bad for Fidelis, not only because they lost 4 people, but because that was the type of fight they wanted. There was no Captain Korea in that fight. Oh my god, is that... Arthalon had to dodge the Mystic Shot, or the True Shot Barrage. That was the fight that Fidelis wanted because they got their AoE off, and Captain Korea did not get his off, but they still got decimated. Even though there are multiple ultimates burned on Tsunami at the start of that fight, this looks super grim for them.
Actually, yeah, as it comes up, Grim Samurai destroying the inhibitor, taking it down. Looks like Otter may be able to put some damage on this one, but he's forced to run. The minion wave goes down. Everybody from Team Summon will back here, but it's scary when that doesn't mean that Fidelis could use their own jungle now, can go around. There's nothing there for them.
It is not a friendly place because even if they get the AoE off, even if they keep Captain Korea at distance, they just can't deal with it. It's full blue for Ezreal right now. He's got the Iceborne Gauntlets, Last Whisper, Muramana Transform, Spirit of the Other Lizard, and Cooldown Boots. Soon he's going to get the Distortion upgrade and just be full blue, even though that's not a required part of that build. But that is really good for Team Summon in this one. I think it's a matter of time until they finish this, as long as they don't make any big mistakes.
And they've really not done that. You know, you said they're ahead with Otter. They need to keep ahead or that build's going to fall off, and they've done perfectly for everything they're trying to situate themselves into this game. Not making mistakes. Fidelis really not making mistakes. They're not getting pushed into anything. They're not tunneling down and losing themselves, but they are losing the fights. And that's what it's coming down to. It's really great to see these teams playing this hard.
They're just getting chased down by the utility that Team Summon brings. The Nautilus chase, the Ezreal chase, even Karthus walls or Zed being able to have multiple blinks towards people. They're taking the time to finish off this dragon, make sure Team Summon's gold lead is even higher. And I'm not even really expecting there to be a real Baron bait for Team Summon. If they want to, they can find a fight in the jungle and just chase Fidelis down, since Fidelis is putting themselves in a little bit of harm's way just by being that close to the Baron.
Well, they have vision on him, and this is where you can see Team Summon starting to dictate the way that Fidelis is dancing around. Possible engagement here. The depth charge goes out from Sicko. Scott, the true shot barrage hits 3 of the members. Arthlon coming from the backside. Captain Korea's onto everybody. There's the Seraph's Embrace, keeping him nice and healthy, but he may go down eventually. His Zonia's right before dying. Nobody's going to be able to turn to him, so he stays up. Still goes for Requiem. Nobody's going to take him down. The fight may end. Oh, the anchor toss for the assist. He actually didn't get the assist on the anchor. That's pretty funny. And they're going to go for Arthlon here. Grim Samurai may be able to finish this one off. Arthlon turns to get the last bit of damage, knowing he's going down from Ignite. Team Summon with the ace at 34 minutes.
5-4-0. They already have that inhibitor down in the bottom lane, and they look to be able to push this one through with another great, clean fight for Team Summon.
Great job coming into the entire matchup, really finalizing items. Just push them ahead of the game. The blue build from Ezreal coming out, and he was even 1-4-6, so he was kind of behind in his build, but the rest of the team played so immaculate that they were able to just overcome any advantages that Fidelis tried to put in their hands.
And that game really turned on a dime, because at one point it was something like 9 kills to 8.
Yeah.
End of the game, it was 28 kills to 9, and that was only because Locust suicided on the fountain at the end of the game with the big smiles on his face here at the end. Really a bit of a collapse for Fidelis near the end of that, because Team Summon came on super strong in what was a very close game.
It was really unfortunate. We saw it kind of happen last game as well during the Velocity matchup that, you know, you'd almost get a kill and you'd want to dive it for the 1-for-1, but the 4 people would get the assist on you because they were there to stop you. And I feel like that happened to Arthlon so much. He'd ult in, get the kills, then be forced to flash away or forced to jump away, and they just so many kills walked away with a little bit of health.
And as a Kha'Zix, the way Arthlon really wants to play that is he wants to be able to jump in to just get the last kill so he can jump out.
Right.
But what ended up happening is he'd jump in to try to get the first kill, and then would have to flash out because it wouldn't happen.
And we have actually a replay of the last fight just to see how Team Summon brought their engagements to the table.
And this was, I believe, the Dragon fight that actually turned the game here. And you can see how Fidelis is all grouped up in this situation. They actually land a pretty good combo of Jarvan plus Rumble ults down at the end. But check out how Virus doesn't get to hit them with his bullet time because he got crescendoed and locked down. At that point, everyone had to scatter because Captain Kree was taking up too much space. Prophet flashed over the wall. Arthlon, again, tried to jump in at the last second on that one. Bug splat, he died.
Absolutely. When the bug dies, he goes splat. That's what happens. Kha'Zix went down in the fight. The Dragon was won. And really, don't walk into the Dragon Den when you have a Karthus following you. That's like walking into a dark alley.
That was really the way it just ended for them. They couldn't see what was going on. The wards got cleared out. Death.
Yeah, absolutely. So coming up, Team Summon took Game 1, and now they're just a Nexus away from a fight with Dignitas. Plus, North American All-Star Dyrus will join us to break down the Game 2 matchup. Don't go anywhere.